Hello and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs program here at Catamount Radio. I'm your host, Brian Collamore. Each Sunday for an hour, we talk with community leaders from the business, professional, nonprofit, and political arenas. And the goal of the program is to bring you up to date on all the things that are happening, not just in Rutland County, but throughout the state. And in some cases, it'll be based on a new law or a regulation that goes into effect. And again, we will continue to keep you focused and informed about things that the legislature is doing. And our program is brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And we're looking forward to the 179th Vermont State Fair, August 12th through the 16th at the Vermont State Fairgrounds here in Rutland. So that's the setup. We had a really, I thought, different show last week with a gentleman who had come over from London, as he said, in the UK. I call it London, England, but he was constantly referring to the UK, which is, of course, more than just England. Arthur Brown was his name. He came here with his wife and his youngest son, and it was, to me, a fascinating interview, and I hope everybody enjoyed that last week. By the way, I don't mention often enough, if you don't hear this program live, you can go to the PEG TV website. Everything there is archived, and you can dial it up and figure out which week and which guest you want to listen to, and you can listen at your leisure at the PEG TV website. So today, we are thrilled to have back with us Lyle Jepson, the Executive Director of CEDRR. And again, hopefully I don't have to keep telling people what CEDRR means. At some point, they're going to get it, I hope. The Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland Region, CEDRR, and also Chrispin White, who is with CEDRR, and if I remember correctly, is in charge of both the membership and also events. And we're going to talk about an event right off the bat. And we did mention this a few times on the show, back in shows that we did in March and in April. Bring Back the Trades, and that is coming up. When you hear this show, it's this coming Tuesday over at, forgive me for saying Castleton University, but that's how I think about it. And it's the Vermont State College System at Castleton, I guess, technically. Mm-hmm. And it's brought to you by FW Web, if I'm remembering correctly. Correct. And so, Lyle and Crispin, welcome in. I don't know who wants to pick the football up first and run down the sidelines with it, but whoever wants to talk about Bring Back the Trades, I guess.
Well, and good morning, Brian. Thank you very much for having us here. Mm-hmm. Crispin has all the information on Bring Back the Trades, which we are excited to be bringing to our county. It has been in different locations around New England. It actually is coming up at Gillette Stadium. I don't know if it's this summer or this fall.
October.
October.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is right now a New England event that is going national. But I'm going to let Crispin kind of talk a little bit about what's happening at Castleton.
Yep. And just want to start off by saying this is something that at CEDRR we decided to partner with a lot of organizations with, because we've realized over the years that our annual business show that the Chamber offered and then CEDRR over the last couple of years, it kind of run its course. So we were looking for something that would really be exciting, that would benefit our members, but would also benefit the community, the region, and the state. And what better way than to bring over almost 2,000 students in front of our vendors, our businesses in the trades who are in desperate need of new employees. What we're finding out is there's a critical shortage in employees in the trades. They are retiring at a high rate. You know, with every 5 tradesperson that retires, there's only 2 coming in. And that's causing a major problem. So we wanted to see if we can come up with an event that would let these high school students know that being in the trades is a wonderful career. It's something that they can really benefit from. They can get their hands dirty, and they really can come up with a nice career and a lifestyle that will support them throughout the course of their lives. So this is a great opportunity to bring together, like I said, over 2,000 high school students, grades 7 through 12, to meet face-to-face with people and businesses in the trades, to really talk about what they need to do to get involved.
You know, when I was growing up, and I'm your senior and Lyle's senior too to some extent, when you went to high school and you went into the guidance counselor, either junior year or senior year, it was sort of expected that you would either go into the military or you'd go on to a higher institution.
Exactly.
And very few people that I knew said, yep, I'm going to be a plumber.
Right.
Or I'm going to be an electrician or a carpenter or whatever. And what it's done over the years, when we had too much emphasis, in my view, placed on that higher education piece, it's left us with, just try to get a plumber to show up to fix your toilet or whatever. So this is just, what a great idea. Where is the farthest school do you know of that's coming down to this? Because I know all through the state people were invited, right?
Exactly. We invited schools from all over the state, New York State and New Hampshire, all of the high schools, middle schools, and tech centers. And I think the furthest away is somewhere around the Barrie area. We had a few phone calls from up in the Newport area, and they were like, nope, too far.
Yeah.
But still, we wanted to make sure that we invited all of the schools, all the tech centers, and we were really excited to see that the guidance counselors at all of these locations were very excited about this possibility for their students.
Yeah.
So again, going back to what you had just mentioned, that a lot of times the track is going into higher education. Now these students are realizing that, especially some, they're just not cut out for that, and they want another option. But there's not a lot of guidance on how to get that other option, how to get involved in the trades, how to make those personal connections. So that's what we're hoping to do with this type of event. So we have it scheduled for Tuesday, May 20th at Catamount University. I'm with you on that. And it's just one of those things where we're going to bring people in. We have 70 vendors who are going to be there and sharing information about what they have to offer in the trades. And we're also going to have an equipment rodeo, to where a lot of these vendors will be bringing all kinds of equipment through the trade, so these students can see everything firsthand. Unfortunately, they won't be able to handle this equipment, but they'll be able to see it in operation. And we're hoping, combined with the vendors, that they get really excited about hopefully participating in the trades.
Yeah.
It's an event that's going to begin at 9 a.m. on campus, and it's going to run to 3 p.m. And one of the great things about this event is we're also providing scholarships to students who are going to be continuing on to a trade school. So we're hoping to give out over $25,000 worth of scholarships for students as well.
So I mentioned the attitude when I was back in high school, sort of expected that you would go to the next level of higher learning, if you will. And with the paucity, I'll say, of available talent in the trades, guess what happens? If there's fewer people, they can command a higher salary.
Right, exactly.
And so these will be very, very good, great careers. They're not just jobs.
Right.
It's a career and very well paid for. And yeah, I mean, they are like revered right now. If you know an electrician, a carpenter, a plumber, any sort of tradesperson, they kind of call their own shots right now. They really do. So I'm excited. And I knew at one time it was 1,600 kids. Now it's 2,000 and over 70 vendors. And it sounds like a really exciting, great day. And thank you for CEDRR's participation here. I think it's going to be absolutely great.
It will be, and we have invited the governor and the lieutenant governor to come down. Of course, it will depend on their schedule in Montpelier.
Correct.
We'd love to see them on stage presenting these scholarships, and the scholarships will be going to trade schools, and so it'll go directly for what our mission is all about. John Casella Sr. will be there, and he will be speaking as well. So we have a local entrepreneur and / celebrity who just celebrated their 50th anniversary, which is so exciting. It was great to see the spread in the newspaper, and the support that Casella Waste has provided to the community is immeasurable. And so we're excited that John will be joining us on stage to shake hands of kids who are going into the trade. You're going to see all sorts of companies that you recognize. It'll be the Casellas. It will be the Killington Resort. It'll be Rutland Regional Medical Center. It'll be all different types of trades, from nursing all the way to the plumbers and electricians we talk about, the truck drivers, the people that make the economy run, the people that are our neighbors, it's going to be exciting for the kids.
And I didn't mean to, and I do that a lot, automatically assume it's plumbers, electricians, carpenters. There are so many other trades that don't get enough attention in the spotlight, like nursing. I mean, if you go into the Rutland Regional Medical Center, there's probably 25 or 30 different trade skills that are needed, from x-ray techs to OR techs. I mean, it just... But a lot of times we don't think about that, and that's unfortunate. So, yeah, that will be absolutely great. Is this going to be an annual event, do you think?
It definitely will be, yes.
Okay.
I think with the excitement that we felt for this event, it's definitely going to be an annual event. We're already thinking about, and we get a little ambitious, but at least for the next 10 years, trying to do something like this, because it's going to be a huge benefit to our region and to the state. So we want to make sure we continue to do it, yes.
So, again, for those of you listening, next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the 20th, from 9 till 3 on the campus of Castleton University, and it's called Bring Back the Trades, sponsored by FW Webb. And it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for kids in the 7th through 12th grades to get an idea of what careers might be available. As Chrispin said, sometimes school and being in a classroom and that sort of environment just doesn't work for everybody. I've known kids that excelled if you gave them a hammer or a stethoscope and let them go. They're much happier and much more successful than they are opening a book and trying to read and all that kind of stuff. So,
and the sponsorship for this, who is making this possible, includes all these businesses that are going to be there. They are providing a sponsorship so that they can attend, but also there's going to be food for the kids. There'll be things for the students to do, hands-on activities. They'll get a lot of information. So it is the sponsorship coming from these 70 businesses,
yes,
you said?
Correct.
It gets higher every single day.
Yes, it does.
Once the word got out, we had no problem filling both the pavilion and the graduation tent, which will still be up. So there's a very large area that all of these businesses will be under. So rain or shine, and it looks like shine at this point as I'm looking 10 days from now. It looks like we're going to have a really good event.
And the event is open to the general public as well. I know we focused on the high school students, but it is open to the community because there are a lot of people out there who might be looking at transitioning into a new career. So their opportunities will be available for them to chat with the vendors and businesses that are there also. So definitely available for all the community from 9 until 3.
And so those of you listening to this show right now, this is a special invitation to you. It was a ticketed event, and it was closed because we have so many tickets that we've given out and sold. But we're not going to turn people away.
Not at all.
So please come and enjoy. How the students will get there, they'll all basically be bussed in. There will be a specific spot where people will cross and enter. You will not have to have a ticket to get through the gate. There will be food and lots of things to see and lots of people to talk to.
This coming Tuesday at Castleton University and the campus therein. I should mention the intersection again. We talk a lot about economic development with CEDRR, and so the TIF districts in both downtown Rutland and also up on Killington are proceeding along as well. And that will provide even more opportunity for people who are just getting into the trades, or as Chrispin correctly said, if you've been kind of doing a job that you thought, boy, I'm not having as much fun as I thought I was going to, and you want to transition into the trades, this is also a great opportunity for you to come in and just learn about stuff. I mean, there's going to be more jobs than you can shake a stick at pretty soon here. But, as the TIFs continue to work through.
Specifically, the Killington project, they're looking at hundreds of jobs up there. And it's not just for a couple of years. This is for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into the industry, now is a great time to do that. Similarly, with hopefully the hotel will be built downtown. And that will create many, many jobs for a period of time.
So that's the first thing we want to talk about. We're talking, by the way, with Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White from CEDRR. There's an open studio, and I wanted Lyle to bring us up to date on this. This is downtown in the Hub Co-works, right?
So there is the Open Studio Weekend, which is really a Vermont-wide art walkabout. You can go, you'll see, I think they're yellow signs that come out that will say a studio is right here. and you are invited to go in and see what type of artwork is being created at the locations where you'll see the signs. One of those signs will be up in front of the Hub Co-works at 67 Merchants Row, and we are very pleased that we have teamed, and MKF Properties has teamed up with Northern New England Museum of Contemporary Art. And if you come into the Hub Co-works right now, it's pretty amazing to see the variety of artwork that's there. There are 50 or so pieces that are up in the upstairs. And in the downstairs, Fran Bull, and if you recognize her name, Fran is from the Brandon area, and she has been in the art industry for quite a while. She has a studio at the Hub Co-works, and it is called In the Tar Pit Residency. And it is very cool, the artwork that she is creating and putting up on the first floor and in the Opera House. So we encourage folks to come on May 24th and 25th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be a reception also on Sunday the 25th between 3 and about 6. And so if you'd like to come to the reception, you're invited. So May 24th, May 25th, that weekend, so come and look at the artwork that has been put together by Northern New England Museum of Contemporary Art and by Fran Bull.
Want to talk about the next mixer? Last week we had the May mixer at the Rutland Airport, and I know there's one coming up in June, but I don't know where that is, Chrispin.
Well, unfortunately, our June host pulled out. Oh. So we're in the process now of trying to find a new host, and as soon as that information becomes available, I will let everyone know. But
will they get a hold of you?
Yes, definitely, definitely, without a doubt. But moving on, next couple of mixers, our July mixer, it's always a favorite of ours, is at Four Seasons Sotheby's International Realty, and that's going to be always a good event. August, we have a newcomer, Rutland Appliances on Route 7 North. They'll be the host for that one. And then September is going to be a busy month for us because the mixer will be at FW Webb, but September is always our month for the Whoopie Pie Festival.
I was just going to bring that up. The Whoopie Pie Festival. Yeah. Tell us more about that. Are we going to set another record? Are we trying? Or?
Well, I think this year's focus is going to be a little different. So it's going to be Saturday, September 13th. And it's going to be from 12 until 4. Like previous years, we've gone until 5. Last year, as everyone's aware, we did break the record for the largest whoopie pie. Dreammaker Bakers, Megan Wagner and her staff produced a 1,187-pound whoopie pie, which was absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, Dreammaker Bakers is no longer in business, which is okay because we have the record. She has the record. So I do know that Maine is looking at us and thinking about possibly how they could reclaim the title. But until then, I think this focus for this year will be just really creating that excitement that we have built over the last few years. It's a family-friendly, fun event in downtown Rutland. Last year, we brought over 7,500 people to the event, and we want to continue with that momentum. So this year, we're going to bring a lot more activities, a lot more excitement to make sure that families can come down and really have a spectacular day.
And I know the street gets closed, obviously, and
yes.
They put the fake grass down.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to have the green street right in front of Wonder Feet Kids Museum again. Our partners at Carpenter and Costin, they do a great job in installing that for us early that morning. And we're going to have a lot of events there on the green street. We're going to have a lot of food trucks. We're going to have a lot of, hopefully we're going to have close to 25 whoopie pie vendors with samples available for attendees. And again, a lot of entertainment. We've in the last few years had the Red Trousers show from Boston attend. This year, unfortunately, they will not be able to attend, but they recommended the Real McCoy show, which is also a group that performs in Boston and Quincy Market right outside of Faneuil Hall. So we're excited to have them join us. And we're going to be adding a few additional fun pieces to this year's event. So once we get those all planned and ready to go, we're going to be we're going to start sharing that information and make sure that people understand this is, again, going to be a wonderful event for the families to come down to. And not only in Rutland County, but we had people coming from all over the country to attend this event because the reputation of what we've built in the last few years is gone far and wide. So we're really excited to bring another great event to downtown Rutland.
We're talking to Chrispin White, who is in charge of membership and also events at CEDRR, and Lyle Jepson, the executive director of the same group. We're going to take our first break here on the program, and we'll be back with our guests in just a moment here on Catamount Community Connection. We are back on Catamount Community Connection. I'm Brian Collamore, happy to be your weekly host for the program, and it's brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846, number 179 fair coming up August 12th through the 16th at the Vermont State Fairgrounds. And our guest today, Lyle Jepson, the executive director of CEDRR, and Chrispin White, who's in charge of membership and also events. And we've talked about a couple of the events coming up, including the Whoopie Pie Festival, which will be coming up in September this year. And I do want to mention before we end the program, certainly the Bring Back the Trades event, which is coming up next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, starting at 9 o'clock at Castleton University. But let's talk about something else that actually I don't know much about. There's a task force that apparently has been organized by the mayor about the downtown plaza, right?
That's correct. There is the mayor's task force on the downtown plaza, which started after the announcement by Walmart that they were considering going up to the Diamond Run Mall location. And it looks like that is their plan at this point, to open a superstore up there. My understanding is that most all of the former Diamond Run Mall will be taken down. The Kmart section of that will probably remain because there is integrity in that building, and they will repurpose that. But you'll see, once this commences, you'll see some pretty significant change up on the hill there. They are anticipating that Super Walmart will have pretty much soup to nuts, a large grocery store, a pharmacy, auto deal, an auto place to get things fixed on your vehicle. So there's a whole lot of stuff that they're going to put in that location. And it's an opportunity for not only Rutland Town, but also Rutland City, because now we have an opportunity to look at the plaza and say, what would we like it to look like 10 years from now? And so with the mayor's blessing, CEDRR put together a group of folks that we like to call visionaries to just talk about what will this look like in the future. So that group has been meeting periodically. There are about 16 members of that, including Board of Aldermen members, a person from the downtown farmers market, the library executive director, just a whole wide range of folks to talk about what should be down there. So that when you come down Center Street someday and you've got a hotel on your right, brand new, spanking new hotel, and you are going into downtown Rutland, what do you see? And what draws you there? And what is the foot traffic like there? So this group has been meeting probably about 6 months now. And most recently, last week, we had a combined meeting of Stantec, which is an organization that does planning for communities, as well as an architect that we've brought in, that the committee's brought in, GB Architects. And we have combined our efforts to put together a rendering that we will then be pushing out to folks to say, what do you think? The goal, and we have several goals of this committee, is to attract people into the downtown, to potentially have a large number of housing units in the downtown. And if you were to come down Center Street, one vision that people are looking at is the Walmart building even there? And is that now, say, 3-over-1 housing? So you have 3 floors of housing, and this is workforce and market rate housing, and then you have shops on the first floor. And is there a outdoor entertainment area? And how do you see the train station from when you're downtown? And so it's pretty exciting to be at a point where we have an opportunity to redesign what downtown looks like. Of course, we'll need to take these plans to the owners of the plaza and convince them that they are interested in doing or conducting this work or having others conduct it on their behalf. But it's a pretty exciting group.
Is there someone from that ownership on this panel?
Not yet.
Okay.
And so our goal is to create a rendering that we can get somebody's attention with. The plaza is not the highest performing part of the resume of Brixmor. There may be some appetite on their part to do something different, or potentially maybe they would like to sell that and allow some other developer to do something different. It's really a blank slate. If you look at it from above, if Walmart wasn't there in its current state, and all the parking that's there, there's a lot of space there, and there's some very creative things that could be done. And this is a moment where we're looking at the next 50 to 100 years of downtown, and what can that look like?
Now, on the other side, Rutland Town, which is my town, I'm trying to picture what might be up there. I don't know square footage-wise what's been planned, or whether they need an Act 250 permit. I mean, you'd think that unless they're making it a bigger footprint than what was there, they might just need an amendment to the existing 250 permit. I don't know that. My guess is there's always an appetite for somebody higher up in the state government to require things, and in many cases that's unfortunate in my view. But I don't know what constitutes a super Walmart. I guess I might have been in one somewhere else. Is there a movie theater maybe, or restaurants? Or I know you mentioned automobile, like it used to be Sears was there, and you could go in and buy tires and get your alignment done and that kind of thing. And then obviously mostly retail stores too, right?
Well, and I probably will have the square footage wrong, but I think it's upwards of 70,000 square feet that this new facility will be. There is not discussion about a restaurant or a movie theater.
Okay.
That continues to be a conversation. The movie theater in particular continues to be a conversation with the Rutland City Mayor, Mike Dunges. So what the location that they're looking at is where the Sears store was, and although it will take up a much larger footprint than that, but it would be in that end of the Diamond Run Mall area. So it will bring a significant number of jobs, and it brings opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, if you live in Fairhaven or Poultney or sort of on that western side of the county, right now, to be fair, you probably, if you're looking to, the most choice and prices that you can get, you probably are looking west to head over the line to New York, because we don't necessarily have a lot of, there are great local stores for sure. I don't mean to say that people in Fairhaven automatically look to the other side, but I think those people, if this goes in, will begin to say, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should go to Rutland instead of Glens Falls or wherever else they go, Albany, I guess. So that's a good thing. And, it's going to be good for Rutland Town. The grand list will go up. And you mentioned jobs, which is always a very important ingredient in any sort of economic development. So, yeah, I don't know how long. You mentioned 10 years. I'm hoping the process doesn't take all of that. It probably will eat up a lot of it, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll take that long. And one of the things that there was a study done a while back on, and you were describing it, we call it market bleed, that there is a significant amount of money that's spent outside of Rutland going to stores like Walmart, the Super Walmart. And so then there's the equal concern that, well, how will it affect businesses? Well, when Walmart came to Rutland, there was concern about that, and it didn't pan out the way people thought.
Yep.
There, particularly around the food industry, if you go into Price Chopper or Hannaford's or Grand Union, they're busy, and there is a need for more food places to purchase food. So the market bleed is there. We'd love to retain that so that people don't spend money outside of the city or the town. And this potentially will help with that.
We're talking with Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White from CEDRR, and we're about halfway through this week's show. I have a number of other items that I'd kind of written down to talk about, But I want to give Chrispin a shot, too, because I like talking about membership and how many businesses are in CEDRR now and how people might get involved. I know if you want to do the June Mixer, you need to call or get a hold of Chrispin, and he can set that up for you. But where are we in terms of membership, and how do people go about getting involved?
Currently, we have over 300 members in CEDRR, and that encompasses all of Rutland County. And I want to make that distinction because a lot of times people think that our businesses are just in Rutland City. So we do cover the entire county. And basically what we do with our membership is I go out and talk to potential businesses who might be interested just to find out a little bit about their business and to see how we can work together and provide them with additional support. And I always use the word value as well. We want to make sure that what we offer them provides them with value. So any business that is interested in just learning how we can help increase their awareness, how we can help them with additional marketing, how we can help them with a variety of different things that will help them to stay vibrant within the community. That's what we like to offer. But again, the first thing is really sitting down and letting them tell me their story, and we can talk about what their needs are and see if we can work together to help take care of some of those needs.
I think Chrispin could teach a course on Sales 101 because all too often salespeople have sort of the thing 180 degrees backwards where they'll go in and begin to tell somebody about their company and how great it is, and don't you want to join, and that kind of thing. And they have absolutely no idea about the company that they're trying to bring along. So it's always important to find out everything you can about, because sometimes maybe there's not a match. I sold radio advertising for years, and I always just assumed that, geez, if they open the door, they must, want to take advantage of our wonderful radio station. And sometimes they don't. Right. And they have very good reasons for that.
Exactly. And that's why you have to have that conversation. But the way I look at it is like we're creating a relationship. I mean, this is something that we hope is something that will be long-term for both our sides so that we can offer them whatever their needs are, see if we can work with them in the long term, and make sure that, the community and the region at large is aware of what they have to offer, and whether it's retail, whether it's a service business, whatever the case may be, it's sharing that information to make sure that we can help them bring people through their doors.
And I think all too often, too, people assume if they're not a big business, or at least they have 20 or 25 employees, that this probably could never work or help out. But that's not true.
That's not true. We work with all different sides of businesses. We work with nonprofits, all kinds of organizations. So the thing is, let's have the conversation and see if what we offer can benefit you. And like you mentioned earlier, sometimes it might not be a fit. Right. But let's have that conversation and see where we go.
Yeah. Okay. How about the Hub Co-works? Lyle, I'll go back to you for this. There's an opening, I understand, for maybe somebody listening.
Well, we would hope. So the Hub Co-works is looking for a community growth manager, and it's a full-time position. It is in large part a sales position because we are looking to have someone encourage more use of the Hub Co-works. The co-working area, as well as the tech classrooms we have and the Street Side Conference Center, and also to help with our customer base when they come in. And the exciting thing about the Hub Co-works right now is over the last 2 years, we've had more than 4,000 guests come through. And so we need a manager of those guests, somebody that can support them with their needs, whether it's IT needs or anything else that's taking place there. We want the Hub Co-works to be the go-to place for anything that's happening in the community when it comes to community development and economic development. And so we are looking for a community growth manager that will oversee that and support our customer base.
If someone's interested, how would they go about? I assume there'll be an interview at some point.
Lyle at rutlandeconomy.com, LYLE at rutlandeconomy.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Anything else about that? I see some notes about Leahy intern, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we're teaming up with the Leahy Institute at UVM, and we received a grant to work jointly with our sister co-working facilities around the state. That includes Hula and Burlington, Brick and Springfield, and Due North and Linden. So each one of the co-working spaces will have a Leahy intern this summer, and we will be working closely with those to see if there's reciprocity that we can have with them, so that if you are a traveler, maybe you're going to stop in Linden, and because you have a pass at the Hub Co-works, it gets you in there either free or at a very low price. We also want to share success stories, because there are things that are happening in each of the other co-working spaces that we probably would like to also do here in Rutland. And so there are a lot of cool things happening out there, and having this collaborative that we now will have through the Leahy Institute will be very, very effective, we think. The intern's job is to do that connectivity, do some interviews with people in the public to find out what it is specifically they're interested in and going to learn more about. Because we would like our location to be a learning center where you might come in and have a lunch and learn, and have a series of things that would support businesses, whether that's around marketing, finance, legal, whatever that is. Once we find out a little bit more about what the needs are, which we just talked about with membership, what's your need, and hopefully we can help fulfill that need.
I'm assuming we must have, well, maybe it's not true, but I assume it is the best one. But Burlington, Springfield, Linden, are they all situated downtown? And do we have sort of the biggest facility, if you will, of all those?
That's an interesting question. We've got about 22,000 square feet, which is a lot of space.
Yeah.
Hula is very large as well. I would say that they probably match that with everything they have there.
That's the Burlington one.
That's in Burlington,
Yep.
right. A little bit different. We're in downtown. Hula is outside downtown. So you have to actually drive or get on your bike or however you're going to get there and get to Hula, which is on the lake. They have a different experience in that they have a small restaurant, cafe. They have some things that we don't, because our membership fills those services. So you can go to Vermont Sports and Fitness or the gymnasium. You don't have to have the gym there at the co-working space. If you want to have lunch, we'll encourage you to go out to lunch at Roots or at Ernie's or someplace else where you can grab lunch and bring it back if you'd like to do that. So we want to support our downtown businesses by encouraging people to go out to them, whereas it's a little different in Burlington. Brick is in an old school in Springfield, and they're working on rehabbing that facility. It'll look beautiful when they get it done. They're even going to encourage some housing in their facility as well. And Due North is connected with Linden. Well, it used to be Linden College. Now it's VTSU at Linden, associated with them. Not on their campus, but they are downtown. And they have a cafe in their downstairs and a much smaller footprint in the upstairs where the co-working facility is. So each community is different based on the needs of the community. And we're excited that we're downtown because I think it's driving traffic into the downtown, and it is encouraging people to use the businesses downtown.
For sure. We're talking to Lyle Jepson, the executive director of CEDRR, and Chrispin White, who is in charge of membership. And if you have a business and you think CEDRR might be able to help you get even more business, get a hold of Chrispin White. And he's also in charge of events, and we've talked about a lot of those. We're going to bring back the trades this coming Tuesday, don't forget. And before we go off the air here in about 20 minutes, we're going to give you all the details about that again. But I did want to move a little bit further north, if you will, to Montpelier and the legislature and the General Assembly. And I know Lyle might have some questions, or Chrispin perhaps, about what's going on there. I will say right off the bat, this has been and this is my 11th year in the building, this has been the slowest moving session I can ever remember since I've been there. We were moving maybe 1 or 2 bills a day out of the different, I think there's 11 or 12 standing committees in the Senate and a like number in the House. So it just didn't seem like anything, I don't want to say was getting done, because I'm of the opinion that we don't need necessarily to pass 18,000 more laws. I'd like to repeal 2 for every one we pass, but that probably won't ever happen. But it just seemed like we were at a different pace this year for some reason. And lately it has begun to pick up a little bit of steam, if you will. We saw last week in the House Ways and Means Committee, on that side, those are the tax people. On the Senate side, it's called Senate Finance. So those are the people that decide how to raise revenue, or tax people, if you will, in order to pay for the services. And out of that came what I think is one of the most important bills that we could possibly get done this year. It has to do with veterans, and it has to do with their retirement and their pension, and the fact that we still do tax it. But involved in that is also Social Security, the child tax credit, and one of the other pieces that's escaping me right now. But unfortunately, when it left the Senate, it had caretaker savings in it, and the House stripped all that out. So I'm guessing that that'll have to be put back in. And yes, it does create a hole. It creates foregone revenue that will have to be filled somewhere else, or you just do something else less, if you will. But I'm really happy about the veterans piece. It's something that for the last 11 years I've tried to get done. We're one of, I think, 3 states left in the country. None of the other states in New England fully tax the veterans' retirement pension. We did make a very small step a few years ago and took the first $10,000 of their AGI, and you don't have to pay tax on it. But you had to choose between that and Social Security. So to me, it really wasn't much of a benefit at all. The bill that passed the House moves that number up to $125,000. So if your aggregated gross income is $125,000 or less, then you don't have to pay any tax. And then there's Social Security on top of that for the others that aren't veterans. And we moved that up. I think it was $50,000 that currently is tax exempt. It moves it up a little bit to like $60,000 or something like that. So I'm hoping when it gets to the Senate side and we get it out of Senate Finance, we can all vote for it, and we can finally say we actually did something substantial to help our veterans out for 2 reasons. One is the base reason for me is it's the right thing to do. They have given their service, in many cases, put their lives on the line, and it's all for country. And we don't sometimes, especially those of coming back from Vietnam, did not get a very warm reception when they came back, unfortunately. And whether you were for or against the war, and I went to a place that was very against the war, but that should have nothing to do with the people that were involved in it, but it did. And so anyway, the number one reason it's the right thing to do. The number 2 is it's an economic development tool that will encourage people to move here who still have many years of working experience to contribute, and it will prevent those who are thinking about leaving from doing that. So it's sort of a double-edged good thing that I think might be happening this year. So that's one thing.
Can we
go ahead,
pause there? Because
yeah, sure.
I want to thank you, because you have been talking about this for a while now.
Yeah.
And you and Bill Canfield, representative from Fairhaven, want to thank both of you for pushing that through and staying on top of it. And you mentioned the economic development piece. That's so true, because we hear often people saying, when I retire, I can't come to Vermont, or I'm going to leave Vermont because I can't keep my benefits, or I can't, I'm going to be taxed on my benefits. This will help in no small way. It will help resolve that problem. So thank you for pushing that. We're excited that it's gotten to the finish line.
Yep. And again, it does create a hole. So I think it's $3.9 million that will have to be found somewhere else. But if what I'm saying is correct, and it actually it attracts people to come in, they will become citizens and they will begin to pay taxes in Vermont. And I think it's going to be, if not a wash, a plus on the other side. And then take into account those that won't be leaving. So I'm not worried about the $3.9 million. I think within a few years, you'll see that there's a plus there and not a negative number. And, it's taken a while, but sometimes good things take a long time.
Well, and I agree with you on the backfilling that. I think that'll happen sooner than later. And we work really hard in our organization on our regional marketing initiative. So we hear the stories, and we are intent on bringing more people here. But we're also intent on retaining people. So once they're here, we've got to keep them, and this will help.
So there's a couple other items, if you will, legislatively. Again, we're recording this on the 13th, so it will air this Sunday, which is whatever it is, the 18th, I think. 18, 19, 20. Yeah. So I don't know about the budget, but I'm guessing that in the interim here, the week that this isn't airing, the governor's indicated that the conference committee report is something he can support and probably will sign the budget bill, or at the very least, he'll allow it to become law without a signature. But I'm thinking he will be in unison with both the House and the Senate in terms of what the number will be in the end. I haven't seen the conference committee report yet as we're recording this. My guess is we're still close to a $9 billion budget, which is pretty hefty and more than we had last year. But I think they've managed to trim it back and take a few positions out and therefore saving a little bit more money. So hopefully by the time you hear this show, it'll be obvious that the budget is done for the year. And the next thing will be the education bill. And I have no idea how long that is going to take. It'll probably not be finished by the time you hear this show. There's still a lot of work to do on that. We unfortunately are not going to be able to come up with the number of school districts or the maps of them by the time we adjourn this year. But we will have the formulation of a foundation formula in effect, and it's somewhere going to be around $14,000 a year per student. It's well north of that now on an average. Some communities make it for a lot less. There are communities in Vermont that spend $9,000 or even $10,000 per student, and then there's some that are up in the low 20s. So we need to find that sweet spot to figure out what that foundation formula is going to be, and the Senate Finance Committee and Education Committees will be working to get that done. I know there'll be a legislative breakfast at some point. I don't have a date yet. A lot of that will depend on whether there's a veto session. As we record this, there are no vetoes right now, so we may be able to escape that. And we'll let you know as quickly as we know when that legislative breakfast will be, but we're looking forward to that. And I guess that would be all I wanted to say on the legislative thing, unless you guys have questions for me.
Well, I do have a question. And so at the beginning of the show, you launched with the fact that this is sponsored in large part by the Vermont State Fair.
Yep.
And there's an issue with that I know you're trying to work on for the Vermont State Fair, and that's the 3-acre rule. So the 3-acre rule, any impermeable space beyond 3 acres requires remediation, and certainly the Vermont State Fair has more than 3 acres of impermeable surface, and they are working with engineers right now to try and figure out the cost to remediate runoff, which is what it's all about, runoff that goes into Otter Creek that then goes into the Champlain, Lake Champlain. And so I know you're working with them to see if there can be a solution that is south of what is now looking like a $3 million price tag or more that the Vermont State Fair would need to pony up in order to remediate an issue that isn't of their making necessarily.
And I'll be glad to bring you up to date. I just realized we haven't taken our second break yet. So we'll do that, and we'll come back, and I'll tell you what I know about the 3-acre rule as we talk with Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White from CEDRR here on Catamount Community Connection. We'll be right back. We're back on Catamount Community Connection, your weekly public affairs program here at Catamount Radio. I'm Brian Collamore. Today we're talking with Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White. And Lyle just mentioned the 3-acre rule. If you own 3 acres of what's called impervious soil, that is soil that won't suck up the water and take care of it, you have to mitigate it somehow. This is stormwater, not wastewater. And the fair, the Vermont State Fair, is in that situation, as are a lot of the other fairs in the on the western side of the state, which all feed into the Lake Champlain Basin. So what I did was, one of the miscellaneous farm bills that we had, or agricultural bills, I put a provision in there which exempts the Vermont State Fair, only the Vermont State Fair, from the impact fees and the requirement that they do an off-site mediation plan if they're not able to do it within the confines of the fair. And the Department of Environmental Conservation did come down, it's probably a month ago now, and did a site visit, and they, to my knowledge, had never been down before. And so that was a first, and that was pretty interesting because the engineers went, oh, wow, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you guys are in a little different position. It's bordered on one side by the railroad, and federal exemption does not allow the fair to do anything about the culvert that is on federal property right now, and quite frankly is too small and needs to be bigger, and so they can't do anything there. On the other side of the fair, a state road borders it, Route 7. So those two prevent them from doing anything north or south, if you will. I think it would be north, maybe it's east and west. And on the other two sides, they're surrounded by residential neighborhoods, which also make it almost impossible to do anything in terms of mediating the stormwater. So the only thing they could do, and this isn't going to happen, so trust me when I tell you this, they could take the track out and make a big pond, which doesn't really, nobody's going to pay admission to go to the Vermont State Fair and look at a pond. Or the Ferris wheel won't be able to be where it is now for the same thing. I mean, it isn't going to work. So I put that in the bill with the blessing, by the way, of the Secretary of Natural Resources. So she is going to support that when it gets to the floor, and I'm hoping that we can at least put that to rest. There's another bill that did pass that will push the implementation date for all of the compliance with the 3-acre rule for 3 years. So nothing will have to be done for the next 3 years, except the engineering studies. Those still have to be ongoing, and the fair understands that, and they're going to get some more money from the state. They've got a $500,000 grant, if you will, from one side of it, and a $50,000 money from the Agency of Agriculture. So they can at least begin the process of hiring an engineer to come down and say, boy, I can't think of how we could fix this. They're going to have to pump it somewhere off-site, I guess, if they can even do that. So there's nothing yet that's in place except for this exemption, I hope. And I did get assurances from the Secretary that DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, won't be coming down next week to say, okay, here's what you got to do. They're going to leave them alone for a while, which is the best thing that could happen. I'm not a big fan of the guys that show up, and I'm from the state, and I'm here to help. That rarely is the way things work out, I found. So we're going to see what we can do to help the Vermont State Fair, because we need the fair. We absolutely have to have the fair every year, and I'll do whatever I can. I'll go down swinging if I have to, but I want to find a solution for them, which keeps them vibrant and alive and operating. So that's the deal on that.
Well, and there's no grandfathering on that. So there are other businesses that are going through a very similar thing.
Yep.
Had they known that were going to have this problem, they would not have bought the property where they now have a business.
Yep. So we've got about three and a half minutes left, and I want to just go back to the Bring Back the Trades event, which is coming up, because I think we've covered most of everything else that I had written down. And I'll let Chrispin again just bring you up to date, where, when, who's going to be there, all that kind of stuff.
So it will be Tuesday, May 20th from 9 to 3 o'clock on the campus of VTSU Castleton. When you arrive at the event, you will see the parking lot outside of Dave Walk Stadium, which will have all of the equipment for our equipment rodeo. And then you would follow that into the pavilion, where all of our vendor and businesses will be located. And luckily, it is a couple of days after graduation, so the graduation tent is still up. So we have that whole area filled with vendors, food, and activities for all those in attendance.
And it's rain or shine.
Rain or shine, yes, definitely.
And we hear tell that upwards of 2,000 students will be attending, right?
Correct. And hopefully a few hundred community members, and again, 70 businesses will be there to share information about how to get involved in the trades. And
at one point, you did need a ticket to get in, but that's not true anymore.
Correct.
The general public's welcome to just drop in.
Yes.
So you don't have to be a 7th grader or a high school student to come in. We want people that maybe are, late in their careers even, that are saying, boy, I'd like to do something else, instead of doing whatever I do for another 10, 15 years. So there might be a way to do that, and there'll be scholarships available to send the kids to trade schools.
Yes.
it's really going to be something else. And I'm just so happy that people responded. I did mention it a couple of times in the Agriculture Committee when we had farmers in there, and they were like, "Oh wow, I hadn't heard about that." So you may even have people coming down from up north.
Yep.
You mentioned, I think, Spalding High School is in Barrie, and they might be the farthest away right now. But and it's going to be an annual event. So my hope is you outgrow the Castleton site, and you got to go somewhere else.
We're already planning on that possibly for next year, so we'll see.
Wow.
More information to come.
I almost don't want to equate this as being a job fair, but this is a job fair that is, some might say, on steroids.
Yes.
This is going to be really ramped up. Yep.
So this coming Tuesday at Castleton, 9 to 3, we have another minute and a half. If we haven't covered something that you either of you want to mention, I'd love to hear if there's anything else that we should talk about.
Just upcoming things happening at the Hub Co-Works, part of the Open Studio Weekend, May 24th and 25th. Stop in to see the artwork, which is currently there, and put in your calendar September 13th, which is the Whoopie Pie Festival, noon to 4, and there will be lots of exciting family, fun-filled activities to be doing. And we will have the legislative breakfast at some point. You'd mentioned that, Brian, that we will be letting people know through our newsletter that the legislative breakfast will most likely be at our member Southside Steakhouse. And it's always a good morning. We're not exactly sure who our invited guest will be, but I am sure Brian Collamore will be there, so you will want to show up. And so please look forward to that. And so other than that, we will have some mixers coming up. And if you have not signed up for our newsletter, you can go to rutlandvermont.com. I've got to look and find our website. Hold on. I'm looking at my own business card, and it says rutlandvermont.com. You go on there, and you will go to the CEDRR site, and you can sign up for our newsletter and know everything that's coming up as it happens.
I did want to mention we had Lieutenant Governor John Rogers come back in the fall after the election, and that was really good. I thought he really, it's funny, some people can read a room quickly and know sort of what to bring up and what not to bring up, and I thought John did a great job. I don't know if he's available. I'm not offering his services for this one, but and I know the governor's been there on occasion as well. So
what's exciting about both of them is that they're very candid about what they believe, and they'll let you know why they're doing what they're doing. And it all makes sense when you listen to what they're talking about.
And they also, I've been invited to the Bring Back the Trades event over at Castleton this coming Tuesday. So we'll see if either of them can make it based on what might be happening up at the General Assembly. So Chrispin White, Membership Director and Events Director, and Lyle Jepson, the Executive Director of CEDRR, I want to thank you both for coming over and talking to us today, and we'll have you back soon.
Great.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Brian.
All right.
We will see all of you next Sunday here on Catamount Community Connection.